We now move on to the panel discussion, the first panel discussion of the day, from 5G to AI-enabled network futures. This session will be exploring closed-loop automation, predictive analytics, intent-based operations, resilience, and AI-native network readiness. May I invite the moderator first on stage, Mr. Sunil David, along with our esteemed panelists. Mr. David is a digital tech consultant and former regional director of IoT for India and Asia of AT&T. Please have a seat. Let me now invite the panelists on stage. Our first panelist, Mr. Arvind Bali, Vice Chairman and Board Advisor, Globe Teleservices. Can we have a round of applause till our panelists come and sit on the stage? Our second panelist, Ms. Sudakshina Laha, Head of Services, MSIT and ADM, Cloud Software and Services, Ericsson. Our third panelist, Mr. Amit Sethi, Head 5G Solutions, TCS. And our last and final panelist, Mr. Amit Sinha Roy, Senior Advisor, Digital Ecosystems, Alliances and Innovation. Thank you so much, and over to you, Sunil.
Thank you for those introductions, and firstly I would like to thank Shubhendu Parth and the Cyber Media team for inviting me to moderate this session on a very, very interesting and exciting topic from 5G to AI-enabled network futures. And before we get to the panel, I just want to take a few minutes to kind of set the context for today's discussion. Let's just look at 5G today and let's look at India's reality, right? So today we are not talking about, the conversation today is not about 5G coverage, because I think pretty much the length and breadth of India has been covered as far as 5G is concerned, right? Almost 99% coverage across India, right? So the conversation is not about 5G coverage. I think what is most important is what are the outcomes that 5G is giving to us, right? For whether you look at it from a consumer standpoint or from an enterprise standpoint, right? They want outcomes, whether 5G is delivering outcomes sustainably and more importantly at scale, right? That's one. And friends, the future of networks will not be defined by Gs, whether it's 5G, whether it's 5G advanced, or by 6G, which is going to come in the future. It will be defined by to what extent AI is baked into a network, right? And today AI is, as was explained earlier in the previous sessions, it is very widely embedded into pretty much every area of telecom operations, whether it is to plan, build, operate, secure, and more importantly, how are operators monetizing networks, right? And today, AI cannot be just looked at as a bolt-on, as an analytics layer, but more importantly, as an AI-native closed-loop operating model. Now, very quickly, when you talk about AI-enabled network futures, what does this really mean? Very quickly, 4 dimensions. One is, how is AI being used in network operations today? And if you just look at India as a country, they are running at massive scale, very wide heterogeneity of devices across the nation, geographies, usage patterns, and so on. And AI is definitely becoming the engine for predictive, proactive operations, forecasting congestion, and managing efficiency, and so on. Second, and very importantly, AI is also shaping the traffic itself, right? I mean, just look at traffic today. It's just not high-definition video traffic, right? You're talking about industrial telemetry data, you're talking about AR, VR traffic, you're talking about edge workloads. So AI is definitely being used to shape that traffic as it goes through the networks. Third, very importantly, is the India's architecture choices. There are operators who started with a non-standalone architecture and then slowly migrated to standalone. There are others who also started off with an SA. But I think what is very important is, from an architecture standpoint, is the network architecture today cloud native? Is it programmable? Does it support slicing? To what level it is automated? I think that is important. And very importantly, the last point is security and resilience, right? So, especially in a country like India, this becomes very critical when it comes to trying to manage situations where there are disasters, whether it's for emergency response and so on. To what extent is the network resilient? That becomes critical. Now, over the next 30-40 minutes, the panel will tackle one very important theme, and that is how do the Indian telcos, the Indian internet service providers, the entire ecosystem partners, how do they move from 5G rollout to AI-enabled, programmable, secure, and monetizable networks while keeping economics and energy efficiency in check? And we are broadly wanting to cover 4 important dimensions during the discussion. Number one is that where are we really today as far as India's 5G journey is concerned, and what is really missing as far as 5G outcomes is concerned. We want to talk about that. We want to also talk about what AI native actually means, whether you look at it from an operation standpoint, architecture, and organization perspective. Third, very importantly, is the new network economics. How are enterprises monetizing, how are telecom operators monetizing the networks, platforms that are being built, the whole question about capex and opex balance, that becomes critical. And finally, the aspect about trust and resilience. So I just wanted to set this context, and now what I want to do is, before we get into the panel, I just want each of the 4 speakers to just take maybe about 30 seconds to introduce themselves, and then I'll ask a common question to all of them, and then we get into the panel. So maybe we'll start with Mr. Arvind Bali. Very quick introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Cyber Media, PG, and Shubhendu for inviting me here. I'm Arvind Bali, and I've got around 43 years experience. Last 25 years in telecom. Before that, I was in electronics. And fortunately for me, was always very lucky that I was in latest technologies. So I came to telecom, and then from telecom went to skilling, and now in last 1.5 years, I am part of 4-5 different companies. They are all into latest technologies when it comes to customer experience, firewalls, and bulk messaging, those kind of fields. So I'm working there. Thank you.
Thanks, Arvind.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Cyber Media and Shubhendu and our moderator for inviting me here. I am Sudakshina Laha. I am the head of services, managed service IT, ADM, and cloud transformation in Ericsson Global. I started my career in CDOT, which is very close to heart, as an R&D engineer, and then moved to Hughes Software, and then with Ericsson. So having more than 2.5 decades of experience working across network and IT layers, and also kind of being very fortunate to have started our career with 2G journey, and now with 5G plus and 6G. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We have 2 Amits. The first Amit.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Amit Sethi. I work for TCS. I manage 5 solutions globally. I work with enterprises and telcos in all the continents, starting from North America to Asia Pacific. My journey started around 3 decades ago from both sides of the table, from Motorola as an OEM to TCIL to BTS, and then telecom services provider in Indonesia for 15 years, and now with TCS as a master SI. This is the reason I'm here, to talk about 5G solutions, what is happening globally on 5G private network, edge AI, and also what is the play of TCS here in this space. Thanks for having me here.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here, to Voice and Data, to PG, Shubhendu, and Sunil. Wonderful to be on a panel with you as always. I was till 31st December of last year with Tata Communications, superannuated, and in discussions with some organizations for my next gig. Started my career back in 1990 with HCL, then HCL Hewlett-Packard, and over the years with multiple organizations, Cisco, and then of course Tata Communications for over 15 years. Worked in India, US, Asia Pacific, Singapore, and have been in the IT space and ICT, as we used to call it then, and then, of course, telecom most recently. And I look forward to the session today and sharing a point of view of how we can make it all come together for 5G and AI.
Thank you. You know, the collective experience of all the speakers, I think it's 100 plus years. So we have a wealth of experience here. So Amit, I'm going to start with Amit Sinha, and I have to be very clear. Yeah, Amit Sinha, we have Amit Sethi also. So Amit Sinha, it's a common question to all the four, and I just request maybe a 1 minute answer to this, Amit. What is the biggest shift that you see today as we move from 5G to AI-enabled network futures, Amit, from an India perspective?
I think we heard some very valuable perspectives in the opening sessions today, right? And I would like to just bring it all together by saying that the shift is actually going to be, the biggest shift is going to be from reactive networks to intent-based networks with AI. So the single biggest shift is, to have the network intelligence where AI native frameworks will enable self-learning, autonomous systems over traditional 5G infrastructure. In India, bringing it close to context, it means evolving to predictive analytics, closed-loop automation to handle the explosive data traffic that's going to be about more than 60 GB per user by 2030 as per some of the industry estimates. And then prioritizing this dynamic network for slicing across various applications, right? So if it is telemedicine, how do we ensure that the latency is of the lowest possible factor, so that there maybe if there are remote operations happening, it can be done in a very seamless manner. So from all these aspects, we are looking to move beyond what is today the best effort connectivity towards a future which is absolutely defined by the intent-based operations that I talked about. Now, essentially, the shift is towards the AI native network readiness, right? And this means the network just doesn't support transport data. It understands the intent of the application for which that data is being sent across. Where I talked about remote surgery. It could be a sub-millisecond latency towards a massive array of IoT devices, perhaps in a smart factory. So now, tying it all together with the topic of Viksit Bharat vision, this intelligence is going to be the backbone, right, of the smart factory, of the digital infrastructure that is required for Viksit Bharat to scale to India's requirements 2047. The network must be self-optimizing and resilient by design, and it must move away from manual configuration, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this as we go across.
Right, Amit. So you mentioned AI native, so which means the network has to sense, decide and act, and eventually autonomy will come. Okay, Amit Sethi.
In Indian context, it is going to be shift from fast-speed networks to intelligent networks. That said, from manual operations to autonomous operations, from connectivity monetization to value engineering, and from hardware-led, the shift is going to be software and data-led optimization.
Wonderful. Very nicely summarized. Sudakshina?
I think the key differentiator has been talked about, like shifting from connectivity or best effort to intelligent, proactive network. I just want to add a little more perspective in terms of the architecture of the network, that how it is differentiated. So when we talk about intelligent network, number one, AI capabilities will have to be pervasively present at each and every layer and in the entire end-to-end architecture. Just to give two examples, let's say if most of us know about how the network architecture works, like we have radio access, then we have core network, then we have IT system on top of that, we have cloud-based infrastructure, data centers. Now, if we talk about intelligent system, in each and every layer there has to be pervasive AI implementation. Only then the entire vertical stack can talk to each other in an intelligent way and achieve an end business objective. That's one dimension. And the other dimension is if we look at it horizontally, like we have edge network, we have enterprise ecosystem, then we have the macro network, we have the server clouds. So again, here as well, at every layer there has to be intelligence, and it has to be differentiated in the sense that where we need, let's say, a small, simple LLM versus where we need much more complex LLM, and that kind of differentiation has to be done. Only then we can form an intelligent and AI native network.
Right, so AI embedded into pretty much every layer as you summarized. Arvind?
Yeah, so basically what we have seen the change, it is like networks are becoming more from reactive to becoming more predictive. Like this question was asked in one of another conference. So I'd give a very simple example. Like we have seen network going from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G. Now we are talking about 6G. Similar example if we see in CCTV, there was like when you have a CCTV, one is you're working on cameras, from 1 megapixel to 2 megapixel to 10 megapixel, that is one part. Second comes to storage and recording, that is another part. But still, it remains like a very, very passive device. Actual intelligence comes when you put a video intelligence network over that. Most of the time, like for example, in an industrial environment, if you're using a CCTV system, if it is just like an old system, even if you have the best of the cameras and best of the electronics, only when the crime happens or a theft happens, you can only do a post-mortem. In the sense, you can go to the computer and see it. Whereas when you have a very intelligent with AI layer on it, like a chowkidar is sitting on the screen, he need not keep seeing all the time. Like only when somebody is jumping the fence, he gets an alarm or he gets a frozen video and he acts on that. Same is happening on networks also. I think one is, we are increasing speeds, latency and all that, but real results will come when it will become layered with artificial intelligence, where it becomes programmable, it becomes predictive, and also it has got network APIs so that like multiple things can be given on it, and it becomes overall useful for the customers. And then of course trust and security of the network is something which is becoming very, very critical.
Right, thanks Arvind. Okay, now let's, I have two questions. So let's first look at 5G, okay? And Arvind's question to you is, the fact remains that today if you just look at adoption of 5G among enterprise segment in India, and we've all agreed, I've spoken to all the panelists before, it's still low in India, correct? And of course it would take some time before we see some level of maturity when it comes to adoption. But from whatever deployment that has been made, Arvind, from your own experience, what are the one or two use cases that you can cite where we have seen pilots actually moving to production and really scaling? If you can give one or two examples in a few minutes, that will be great.
Yeah, so there are, I think, a lot of work is happening. As I was saying that because of all these AI layers adding onto it, use cases and overall work which is happening is improving. One definitely CPaaS is an area where all enterprises are ultimately be moving to CPaaS. Today we see banking, financial sectors or logistics companies, but ultimately I think everybody will be moving on to that. Another area where I see a lot of work is happening is WhatsApp as a business service or RCS and those kind of things. They'll be working on these layers, but ultimately customer, when he goes to, or he gets a message. In the past, we were getting a message from some unknown site, they're offering some discount, and, we were not acting on it. Today, when we get on RCS or Wawa this kind of message, we just touch it, it opens the site, and then, you can actually end up buying the ticket and buying and booking your seats. So all that is happening. So that is another area where we are finding. And then third is where a lot of work is happening is on security part of it. Like firewalls, ensuring that, misuse of network is not happening, or, wrong messages are not being sent. I think as far as operators are concerned, they're all the time concerned, worried that their revenues are not leaking. And most of the time, international messages are being passed through domestic routes, or, sometime your expensive SMS is being routed through WhatsApp messaging and all that. So those kind of frauds operators want to avoid, and there the firewalls play a role, and that is the kind of opportunity coming. So I was seeing this beautiful presentation from Nokia, where they've talked, all the 7-8 areas where work is happening, and those are all, I will say, that real monetization or real work happening.
Right. Thanks, Arvind. I want to move to Amit Sethi. And Amit, so there are 5G deployments happening, and there are a lot of them are pilots, right? But they're not really moving to scale, not just in India, but even outside of India as well. What are the reasons that you can attribute to as to why these pilots are not really scaling? I'm talking about from an enterprise standpoint, Amit.
See, first and foremost is spectrum clarity. There are 26 countries in the world where spectrum for private 5G deployment can be allocated directly by the regulator. Few other countries, India included, we have to go through the telcos basically. So ROI becomes difficult to justify, long-term ROI. Next is, compared to public 5G deployment, operation and maintenance becomes a real practical challenge in private 5G deployment. You can do L1, L2, L3 monitoring, but who will go to the site and replace the radios or the cables or the nuts and bolts in case of, major failure? In public 5G, there is a SLA-based, monitoring, third-party, complete setup is there, labor is there, mobilization is there, swap buffer is there, parts are there. But in private 5G, who will retain those parts becomes a practical challenge. So, and then, change management within enterprises, they have to adapt to not only the innovations, but funding, investment, they have to be convinced with the clear, direction for next 3 years, 5 years. How much is the operational efficiency improvement? What is the uplift in the OEE? How much manpower reduction, comes in with the real business case? So all those are practical challenges where, not only on the paper, everybody want to see action on the ground before they can invest further. So this is where from POC, I would say, before going to the mass deployment, there is another stage called MVP, minimum viable product. So this is where in MVP, everybody gets stuck. People who are able to move from POC to MVP, they are not able to go to the mass deployment because of all these, commercial and technical challenges.
Thanks. And Amit Sinha, I'm sure you resonate with all what Amit Sethi just mentioned. But my question to you is about bringing in the alliance lens to this, because when you're talking about deployment of 5G, you need the ecosystem to work together, right? You need the telecom players, those who provide the radios, system integrators, and all of them have to work together. So why are we not seeing 5G capability really translate to 5G outcomes? Is it issues because of platform readiness? Is it issues with working with partners working together? What in your view is really causing this, Amit Sinha?
No, thank you for that, Sunil. And I think we are looking for the missing link, and there could be multiple missing links here. And clearly, vertical integration and alliances, along with the technology, is one of the key missing factors here. So there is the factor of platform readiness and integration. But as India's digital ecosystem, it lacks the interoperability, if I may, between networks, edge compute, enterprise applications, IT, and OT, right? That's a lot. There are partnerships that exist via alliances like Bharat 6G, right? But business models need evolution to repeatable enterprise solutions beyond the basic or even advanced connectivity. We need to have stronger ecosystem solutions orchestration, perhaps unifying ORAN, cloud hyperscalers, system integrators like TCS, Ericsson right here, and the technology providers. So while we have the 5G capability in terms of infrastructure, and it's proven, we need to work on the ecosystem glue to deliver the outcomes, right? We need to have middle layer platforms that translate the raw data into industry-specific insights and actionables. That will actually help us deliver the outcomes. The alliance gap, or the missing piece, is deep collaboration between the various parties, telcos, GSIs, I covered that, right? But it is also to look at not just monetizing data buckets, right? We should be selling and looking at outcome-based SLAs. So uptime for a smart factory, for example, right? Rather than talking about gigabytes and latency. So that is where, whilst we have built world-class 5G capabilities, we need to actually leverage the entire ecosystem to be able to deliver the outcomes. And winning through alliances, the goal is to actually move from just being a vendor or a supplier to a true business partner. The business partnerships is what will deliver value to the end user.
I think the very nicely put. You need a business partner, because when an enterprise wants to engage with the solution provider, they're looking for a solution, right? They're not just looking at bandwidth or connectivity. And in that sense, the role of the system integrator, of the solution provider, becomes so critical, because right from identifying the right use case to solutioning to building the whole thing becomes so critical, right? And so thanks for sharing that. Sudakshina, to you. And we talked about AI native, right? What are the steps that would really take to get to AI native? It's not going to be easy, right, for any operator. So what are the steps and what's the maturity path, Sudakshina, in your view?
It's a very interesting question, and there is a bottom-up approach and there is a top-down approach to that. I would first like to extend from what my esteemed panelist here, Amit, mentioned just now, that why it is not moving from, let's say, pilot to MVP and beyond, maybe. One of the key reasons is also the business viability. Ultimately, where is the ROI? Where is the revenue? And again, in Ericsson also, one of our views is that in many cases, the operators are too much network efficiency centric rather than being business centric. So ultimately, you earn revenue as much as your BSS and OSS system allows you to do. So there, perhaps a lot of innovation has to be brought in, and that is where also a lot of intelligence has to be put in terms of how you watch the subscriber behaviors, how you can give different sort of configurations, different sort of promotions, and everything, and differentially for enterprise market and kind of B2C market. Now, so the IT BSS OSS system again needs to be fully implemented with AI native intelligence. That's one, and that is how you can define your key business indicators. So if you first define your key business indicators and then you further break it down, that how you want to have your other performance indicators, other efficiency indicators, and then in terms of maturity model, we need to, usually the way it is done, we need to have a 30, 60, 90 days plan, then a 1 to 3 years plan. To start with, of course, augment the system with the required data architecture with all machine learning and AI native models in place in the entire architecture, depending on the key business indicators. For example, if I want to just invest on improving my fault management, okay, I just want to maybe improve my cost of operations for cloud infra. So depending on such use cases, I can plan what is my plan. And then initially it can just be more of automation, moving to a little bit of more of autonomous, that is closed loop automation kind of a scenario, and then ultimately in terms of the maturity model, moving to what TM Forum calls as level 4 autonomy, which is like intent-based operations. So this is just an example. So this way we have to really plan it out that how we want to move in our maturity model.
Right. Thanks, Sudakshina. I want to come back to Arvind. And Arvind, I want to take this discussion to the point where we are talking about how telcos can monetize beyond just bandwidth, right? Customers just don't need bandwidth. They need solutions, right? So in your view, what could be those layers which can be monetized? Is it around network APIs? Is it around digital trust? Is it industry solutions? So what shift the telcos need to make to really monetize beyond just bandwidth, Arvind?
Yeah, I think if we really see, and in the inaugural session we heard that as far as operators are concerned, they're investing so much in their return, etc. Actually, the way the world is changing and our industry is changing, I think a lot of responsibility lies with the network operators, but at the same time, I think as a user is concerned, everyone is using. Like there are multiple cases. There is a very big case study from Australia 2 years back. There was a network outage, 3 days outage, and like a lot of penalties came on the operator because a lot of people died in hospital. So there, they have to now, operators also have to look after these aspects that, where are the criticalities and how they will make network programmable in the sense that wherever there are critical requirements, they are providing. Fortunately for me, I'm seeing a lot of this great work happening in this industry. 5 of the companies where I'm investor and I'm also board advisor, they are actually in practically all these fields which are helping operators to monetize. Like one is, as I was mentioning about firewalls, where wrong usage of networks, WhatsApp or RCS or A2P SMS, we monetize those networks and provide them that service. Then we are also having cyber security companies, like where quantum-based networks are ensuring that networks are not misused, or customer safety and security is there. Then there are customer experience, which is becoming very, very important. And there, if operators can play a role, they can benefit. Actually, CPaaS is another area where good integration with operators can definitely help. And overall, I think 5th company, when it comes to network APIs, that is another big area, big field. I'll say that even 1% monetization has not taken place. There's a huge scope. A lot of work is happening, and that is going to give a result. And besides this, another area which has not been talked since morning is a skilling area. That is an area where India has the biggest potential, not only for our own use, but for the world. And my previous company, TSSC and General Service here, CEO, 5G labs, which has been established. Punjab Engineering College has done so well, and many other colleges are doing good. Now that is another area, which is going to bring a lot of skilled manpower, and ultimately is going to help operators as well as, I think, equipment manufacturers.
The ecosystem players.
Yeah, overall the ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. And sticking to monetization, I want to come back to Amit Sinha. And Amit Sinha, where do you really see these winning monetization models? And again, I wanted to give you your alliance view here. Whether it is, in the industry clouds, whether is it in digital services, is it network APIs? So what in your view can be a winning monetization model?
Thanks for that, Sunil. So I know there's a session which is going to be talking about the TechCo, from telco to TechCo pivot, so not going to get too much into that. But it is about network APIs and the managed digital services that you need to lead with for these winning outcome-led models. So exposing capabilities like quality of service, on demand, slicing, location via platforms, and there are platforms like Camara for enterprise apps in extended reality and drones that is already there. But platform plays also can risk commoditizing the telco into dumb pipes. That can happen unless it is structured as co-owned marketplaces, and that's where the alliances piece comes in, right? And these could be with hyperscalers, it could be blending the telco APIs with cloud services and so on and so forth. And the telcos have to focus on the outcome-based alliances, co-owning and perhaps even sharing the revenue, and then elevating themselves from being just the pipe providers, right? And the winner is, of course, network APIs, and that's been touched upon here as well as in the morning. And there could be other areas as well. For example, managing digital services, and where the telco is not just providing 5G, they should manage the entire industry cloud if possible from end to end. And the other part is about structuring the alliances, and they must be built on shared intellectual property, right? And not just one being a manufacturer and the other being a supplier, and a third one just being a route to market, route to customer, and providing the connection. It has to be about sharing intelligence about the industry to be able to actually drive that value, and value is what will result in giving the financial outcomes, right? So in terms of recalibrating these economics, as coming back to the AI workloads, there could be ultra low latency services, etc. These are the areas that will reshape demand. And we must be ready to structure the alliances that share both the risk as well as the reward of infrastructure investment. It cannot be a one-way street. Let me hand it back to you.
Thanks. And you talked about outcomes, Amit, and I want to get Amit Sethi into the discussion. And yes, enterprises want outcomes, but outcomes also need to be accountable. Right. So, and again, in this context, importance of ROI comes into play, right? So I just wanted to get your view. Where do you see the strongest ROI equation really forming? It could be for private 5G, Wi-Fi, edge compute, and so on. And what should enterprises ask for in contracts so that outcomes become accountable, Amit Sethi?
See, private 5G has always become a challenge, mainly because of device compatibility. If we are talking about 3.5 gigahertz, 98% of the device ecosystem supports N78. So we are safe. But every country has got different spectrum, and private 5G is basically, depends on the regulatory. They will allocate the spectrum. If it comes from telco, again, they will allocate the spectrum, which is not widely used, basically, right? So, point I'm trying to make is Wi-Fi becomes very important in every private 5G deployment also. So, that can be achieved in two ways, either 5G CPEs, where legacy devices can still play a role. But most importantly, Wi-Fi and 5G convergence is the key. N3 IWF, there are many architectural improvements that can bring in technological disadvantages into an opportunity. So I would say in terms of rating, managed services is topmost, followed by Wi-Fi to 5G convergence. Then third deployments which we are seeing globally is private 5G. And then, of course, everything else, legacy and all the deployments comes as a last option. In terms of contracts, first criteria in the contract has to be end-to-end SLA. End-to-end SLA means not the individual SLAs like, access, core, transport, cloud. You have to actually monitor end-to-end SLAs, and business outcome should be the key. Meaning that contract has to specifically, mention what is going to be the business outcome of any deployment. Then only the real ROIs can be justified.
Right, so you need SLAs with the business outcome that have to be incorporated in the contract, right?
Correct. Because that will define when is going to be the break-even.
Right.
In terms of private 5G, this is going to be the mid-level, break-evens. Normally we see 10 to 12 months basically. But managed services being all, services part, we see the fastest ROI justified.
And we're actually seeing this play out in IT services companies, right? Because you all are talking to your enterprises, they want outcomes at the end of the day. They want
Exactly. Yeah.
to be building based on outcomes, right?
Correct.
Okay, and you talked about managed services, so good to get Sudakshina back into the discussion. And so Sudakshina, AI is changing the network economics, right? Whether it's around OPEX reduction, service assurance and all that. But where have you seen the biggest value unlock when you look at managed services specifically, Sudakshina?
Yeah, so thanks for picking up that point. So managed services typically today, the operators are very much used to with very dedicated system of managed operations to whichever vendor they would like to go to, or even if they insource their teams. So dedicated team setup. But in the AI world, actually, what we are also trying to do from Ericsson and maybe similar companies elsewhere as well, you can see how AWS is operating. So we need to really aim for AI first dark knock. So the moment we have our network operation centers or IT operation centers, extremely AI driven. So we don't need people to continuously monitor the alarms, continuously monitor the events, continuously do the capacity management in terms of, how the cloud infra is set up or how the data centers are running. So all of this can actually be done by AI. But we need intelligent people who can manage and monitor through that system and do the intervention as and when needed. So this kind of an AI first model, sort of shared services model where we can serve multiple operators together, right, without really having dedicated staff. So that movement actually can bring down the cost to a very large extent. And then on top of that, having sort of service orchestration functionalities, again, so that would reduce the cost of operations for the operator also in terms of the infra or spectrum or improvement of the quality of service. So these kind of things we need to look at.
Right, and you talked about dark knock. You actually answered my last question, just to all of them, because the question was 1 year from now, and when they have the 8th edition of this conference, what will look visibly different in a well-run telecom operation center because of AI? Is it a dark knock?
Absolutely. So definitely what we want to reach is that level of maturity in terms of our operations where we just put our business intent somewhere written by someone who really understands the system very well and operators' business requirements, and rest everything happens in an automated way. So that's the intended position, and it has to happen layer by layer. Maybe in service management layer, just a knock part, that can be the first one, and then on top of it add all required troubleshooting functionalities, then all required recovery functionalities. So this is how we keep improving in the maturity level.
Okay, and Arvind, same question to you.
Yeah, so I came in telecom in 2008, and since then time, I'm seeing actually exponential growth as far as Indian telecom is concerned. Like today, I think we make every Indian proud, when we talk about telecom. Like one of my small company, Globe Teleservices, we are talking about monetization. So we are doing 18 networks in Asia and Africa, where we are giving monetization money to the operators. Same way, like all other areas, wherever we are working, there are more than 5,000 companies, telecom companies in India, which are doing great job. And I feel that in 1 year's time, we'll see tremendous growth as far as AI layers are concerned, because AI layers are being provided by small companies, who bring innovation, and those innovations are provided through network APIs or providing some intelligent layer to the existing networks.
And the small companies could be in very exciting, innovative startups as well, right?
Exactly. They are startup systems. They started, every company starts a few years back. When you make investment in those companies, you're not very sure whether they'll return, give you good return. But ultimately, they become global players and they provide global technology. And that is where I think India is playing a big role. And one reason, which I say that why India is getting such a great success in telecom, and when I see it from 2008, when we came into telecom in 2008, it was like 70-80% telecom was electronics and some 20% was softwares. Now, I'll say it is not 20% electronics and 80% software. And India always had the strength of software development and IT. And that is what is taking us ahead.
Right. Amit, your view on this? 1 year from now, sorry.
If I can just add just one sentence.
Yeah.
Because the example he gave. So turning from electronics to software, then software to AI based. So even from operations managed service perspective, it is not going to be resource intensive. It's going to be software intensive going forward. So that's the wanted position basically. So there, yeah.
See, in a nutshell, it is going to be shift from reactive firefighting to predictive operations.
Wow, okay, interesting.
That said, the L1, L2 alarms should be self-healing. With the AI built in, there has to be automatic resolution, as opposed to currently, there are war rooms in order, even for simple issues, everybody is running here and there, just to resolve those minor issues. They have to be self-healing. So this will happen. The future is very near. This is going to happen very soon.
Great, thank you. Amit Sinha, last word to you.
Yeah, I just want to add to that without repeating. So the wall of alarms will disappear, right, Amit? Everything will be hopefully automated. But the human being will still be required, right? So instead of doing troubleshooting, they are actually going to be working on the AI and as an AI trainer, because these AIs need to be trained, and also SLA orchestration that needs to be done. So we'll see the role of the human still being there, but being elevated from just being a troubleshooter, right? That's one of the things. The other thing is, we shouldn't forget, and I know we haven't touched upon it, it's about the quantum safe readiness. Quantum is real, quantum is here, right? And there are both sides to it. There's a positive side of it, which allows you to have quantum encryption, and then there is the other side, which gives you decryption. So, your passwords can be hacked. The current passwords that we have can be hacked in a matter of seconds, perhaps, right? So how is it that we are going to ensure that this secure by design element comes into the architectures for quantum safe readiness moving into the future? Because the NOC is going to be in many ways responsible and accountable to deliver that to the enterprises and the consumers that it serves.
Thanks, Amit. I'm glad you brought the human in the loop aspect. I think that's so critical. That's a topic in itself. We just don't have the time to debate that. But thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. Unfortunately, we don't have time to take questions from the audience because we are like behind schedule. But the speakers are around. You all can meet the speakers after the session. I don't have time to summarize what was discussed, but I'm just going to end with one question to all of us, and that is, are we building an AI-enabled, programmable, secure network that can deliver measurable outcomes at India scale and, more importantly, India economics for a Viksit Bharat? Just wanted to end with that. On that note, handing it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. But Sunil sir, can I request you to please stay on stage and give mementos of our appreciation to the panelists. Yeah. Thank you so much. Can I request a group photograph also with all the panelists together? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for those thoughts